Welcome to another podcast in which we'll be talking about James Mahu's essay, Our Purpose. Sophia and Phil greet you from the microphone.
Hello to everyone.
What if everything we believe about human consciousness is fundamentally backwards? Recent neuroscience suggests our brains might be more like receivers of consciousness rather than generators of it.
That's quite the opening statement, Sophia. What's making you challenge such a core assumption about consciousness?
Well, Phil, I've been diving deep into this fascinating essay by James Mahu that completely reframes how we think about consciousness and our purpose here. Instead of seeing ourselves as limited beings occasionally touching something spiritual, he suggests we're actually infinite beings choosing to have a temporary human experience.
Hmm, that's a pretty radical shift in perspective. How does he explain why we choose this particular kind of experience?
Well, here's where it gets really interesting. He introduces this concept called the sovereign integral. Think of it like a multidimensional lens that can simultaneously look outward into infinity and inward into specific experiences, whether that's being human or even being a blade of grass.
So you're saying we're not just trapped in these bodies, but actively choosing this experience? That's quite different from traditional spiritual teachings.
Exactly. And here's what's fascinating. Recent studies in quantum physics actually support this idea. Researchers at the Institute of Noetic Sciences have found evidence suggesting consciousness isn't produced by the brain, but rather exists as a field that our brains tune into, like a radio receiving a signal.
That's mind-bending. But if we're these powerful conscious beings, why does it feel like we're so limited most of the time?
That's where Mahu's analysis gets really compelling. He suggests we're experiencing something like a self-imposed amnesia. You know how when you're dreaming, you rarely realize you're in a dream? It's similar. We're so immersed in this human experience that we've temporarily forgotten our larger identity.
Well, that explains a lot about why we often feel stuck or limited by circumstances beyond our control.
Right. And here's what's really fascinating. Studies in neuroplasticity show that our beliefs literally shape our reality. When people believe they can't do something, their brains actually create neural pathways that reinforce that limitation. But when they believe they can, new pathways form that support that capability.
That reminds me of the placebo effect, how our beliefs can create real physiological changes in our bodies.
Exactly that. And Mahu takes this even further. He suggests that what we call reality is actually a collective creation of our beliefs and expectations. Think about it. Quantum physics has shown that particles don't exist in a definite state until they're observed. We're literally participating in creating our reality moment by moment.
You know, this connects with some fascinating research I've read about meditation and consciousness. Long-term meditators show measurable changes in their brain structure and function.
Oh, that's such a great point. And it ties perfectly into what Mahu calls the tapestry of beliefs, this interconnected web of conscious and unconscious beliefs that shapes our experience. The really exciting part is that we can actually change this tapestry once we become aware of it.
But how do we begin to make that shift? It seems like quite a leap from our everyday experience to this larger understanding.
That's where practical application comes in. Mahu suggests starting with simple awareness, noticing when we're operating from a limited perspective and consciously choosing to expand our view. It's like exercising a muscle we haven't used much.
That makes me think about the implications for society as a whole. How might things change if more people understood themselves this way?
You know, that's such an important question. Some researchers studying collective consciousness have found evidence that when large groups of people meditate together, it can actually affect crime rates and social behavior in surrounding areas. It's called the Maharishi effect, and it suggests our consciousness has much more influence on reality than we typically assume.
That's remarkable. It really challenges our assumptions about the boundaries between individual and collective experience.
And here's what I find most hopeful about all this. It suggests that the chaos and challenges we see in the world aren't fixed or predetermined. They're more like collective dreams we can wake up from and change once we understand our true nature.
So, in essence, we're not victims of circumstances, but co-creators of our reality.
Precisely. And recent developments in fields like epigenetics support this view. Our genes aren't our destiny. Our beliefs and choices can actually influence which genes are expressed. We're far more powerful than we've been led to believe.
This really shifts how we might approach everything from personal development to social change.
Absolutely. And that brings us back to the original question about our purpose here. Maybe we're not just here to learn lessons or evolve spiritually. Maybe we're here to participate in this grand experiment of consciousness, exploring itself through countless perspectives and experiences.
That's quite a profound way to look at it. It gives even our challenges and struggles a deeper meaning.
And that might be the most valuable insight of all, that everything we experience, even the difficult parts, is part of this larger tapestry of consciousness exploring itself. We're not just passive observers, but active participants in this cosmic dance.
Looking ahead, what do you think this understanding means for our future as a species?
I think we're at a crucial turning point. As more people begin to understand and experience this larger reality, we might see a fundamental shift in how we approach everything from education to governance to our relationship with the planet. It's not just about individual awakening anymore, it's about collective transformation.
That's both exciting and challenging to contemplate.
Indeed, and perhaps that's exactly why we're here at this particular moment in history, to participate in this grand shift in human consciousness. Not as something happening to us, but as something we're actively creating together.
Yes, exactly. Now it's up to the listeners to study the essay for themselves. It will certainly help them to understand the concept of our purpose in a deeper way. You can find the link in the text below the video.
Goodbye from the mic, Sophia.
Goodbye, Phil.